Hi, I'm Zach, and I'm going to do something a little different with my video of this week because I'm still working on thesis stuff and stuff like that. Obviously, I do a lot of sewing videos on my channel. Mainly I do sewing videos because that's sort of the easier thing to do. I was like, what do I do with Circus? Do I present? Obviously my channel is like littered with Circus videos. But I'm working on like a 3-year sort of documentary series on my experiences in circus school because I very much feel like that should be shared with the world, because every person that I talk to is like, so what about them elephants? I'm like, you're so close, but no babe. I think I need to introduce sort of that with a video now, being like, this is where I started, so no one's gonna be like, so why'd you come to circus school? I came to circus school for good reasons, and I'm very glad that I did. I don't see myself doing anything else. Yeah, so that's sort of a long-winded introduction into this video. I'll be showing and presenting sort of videos of things that I did, things when I was younger, all that fun shit. So my story starts very interestingly, very different. My experiences are, again, back then I lived in a tiny small town in Indiana, right? Like, Indiana is not the place to go for circus, obviously. As I move away, I'm like, whoa, this is so much better. But like, I started as a dancer, as in like I was like 5. Started out with like 5, or before 5, I don't remember. I'd been wanting to dance for so long. I was like, that's the only form of anything that I can do, right? No, I'm glad it's not. But I started as a dancer. I was in like tiny kid ballet classes, all that fun stuff. I loved doing it. I loved moving. It made me feel good. But dancing is just like this really toxic environment. Even when you're like 5, dude, it's so fucking toxic. And so for me, I had to move on eventually. Like, I was like 8, and I was like, this is not for me. I think I took like 1 gymnastics camp over the summer, and like I was not good at gymnastics. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was taking them simultaneously, but like I hated gymnastics for a while, which is really funny to think about now. But yeah, I hated it, and I was like, I just don't want to do it. And then we got to like going backwards, and I was like, I like going backwards. I like being a gymnast. I like, doing this, being weird. I was always a little weird, Obviously I'm neurodivergent, so like it's a little different for me than other people, because like I'm weird, I'm wired weirdly, dealt with shit. And I remember sort of always really just liking to move. I didn't like dance as in like a thing. I didn't like dance as in you have to technique, you have to, Martha Graham, you have to, all that fun shit. I just like dance as dance. I like moving my body, I guess is what I like saying. So movement is sort of the encompassing thing. I also really like theater for some reason at that point. I'm not a big theater person anymore, maybe because my circus school theater experiences, we'll talk about that, will be interesting. They were interesting. But yeah, I started out in dance. I moved to gymnastics, which felt more free, but also was still like organized sport, and organized sport never gives you a lot of freedom and a lot of movement. I was also not very good at it. I think my best skill for like a year was like a back bend kickover. I was like 10 when I got it, and I was the most stoked person I could ever be. I think when I was 10 was when I started to actually take it seriously too. I was like, I actually want to get good at this. I want to do this. I want to like do something with it. What am I supposed to do with this? But I started too late. I didn't realize I started too late until, I was like 12, and I was like competing at like level 4. But this is like old level 4, right? So like round off back handspring, like I will not, it's not level 3, it's level 4. Shut up. I think I finished level 4 like a year before it moved down to level 3. But like I was competing, and I felt really held back that whole year. Like competing level 4 made me feel like I was just not improving. Like I was improving on my own time. I was getting round up against back tucks. I was getting kips. I was getting everything I needed to move on and move forward into the new levels. But I felt like I was being held back because by the end of the year I was hitting like 9 4s, 9 3s. I had like my scores were basically like, get this kid out of there. Like, this is too low of a level for him. And I think that's a good thing, because it motivated me. It's like, I want to get a fucking 10.0. Like, that's all I wanted. Never got a 10. I don't think I've seen 10s. I think 10s are very rare in USAG. But yeah, my fun experiences in level 4. I found this love that year for creating and crafting, routines on floor. Like, I didn't like any of the events. I was just like, I want to make and dance, using gymnastics and acrobatics on floor, because it's really cool for me. So I'd sit, in my room. I'd go to my room. I had like a little square space where I'd like pretend that it was like a floor, but it was very small. I'd go outside, I'd go into my living room, I'd do all this crazy shit. And I just make routines to like songs that I liked. And at this point I was a weeb. I was like super obsessed with Homestuck and anime. So it was like anime music and Homestuck music. And I choreographed a routine so that I could train it over the summer. And it was a thing. It's not bad. It was a lot better than some of the ones that I've seen. I have so many qualms with the elite and Olympic level routines because they're just boring. Like, get y'all some actual choreographers, please. Thank you. Okay, bye. Rant over. But yeah. So I did that. And it was really, 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 it was fun for me. I love making new things. I love making pieces. I love making emotional, deep things, right? It made me really happy to just like pour my heart out into movement. And then I got my own routine that next year. I was like, no more USAG, no more like level 5. It was no more compulsories. I got the opportunity to just like switch it up to Excel, which obviously wasn't going to get me anywhere in gymnastics. But at that point I'd given up that dream anyway. And so yeah, I gave up that dream of gymnastics and I replaced it. So this was the year of just like me going from weeb human to metalcore scene kid, right? Like, I was in 8th grade. Okay, this is a whole video on its own too eventually, but yeah, 8th grade me went from like, I think I started out the year in like my sort of cosplay, like I went to Gen Con, I went to all this fun stuff, and then like I found, don't laugh at me, don't roast me in the comments, Black Veil Brides, and I really liked the first album. It was like We Stitch These Wounds, and I listened to it like on repeat because, hi, I'm neurodivergent, I like hyperfixate on records. Obviously that changed, and eventually I would come home with like stacks of CDs from the library like this big, and I'd just like listen to all of them all at once, and like, oh my god. It was so important. It was so good. So my dream was to be a vocalist in a band, because I can sing. I can still sing. I actually sing a lot. It makes me very happy. I can't scream. I still don't understand it, but I can sing. Hi, hire me. I'm a circus artist. I spin in a wheel and I can sing. So yeah. What else about that year? Oh, right, gymnastics. That's still a thing. At this point, I'm in a level where they're actually challenging me, right? Like, but I was going through it that year. That was like, it was something that I called like a hell year. It was awful. I was just so miserable the entire time. I got a concussion. I think I kept getting injured. I sprained an ankle, I got a concussion, then I sprained my other ankle. I had a back injury for like forever. Oh my god. So I couldn't do anything. I was at this mental block on vault that just wouldn't leave either. So it's just like I wouldn't go to the vault table. I was miserable. The only thing holding me together was music. And I think this was like in November, so what were my playlists at the time? It was like, I did listen to a lot of Pierce the Veil. I listened to a lot of Mayday Parade. Bless the Fall was really big. I still listen to Black Veil Brides. Sleeping in Sirens, not as much. I never got into them. I never got into like Asking Alexandria and Sleeping in Sirens and stuff like that. It was like really Pierce the Veil type stuff. And then, oh right, I found Born of Osiris. Now I'm getting to metalcore. This is like a life story, but like really short life story. But this year was just like freaking music year. I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And so I found like Born of Osiris. I started getting into metal, and I started getting more into like Chelsea Grin, stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, and I need to not talk about this yet. Gymnastics. Why do I do circus? Okay, rant aside. So yeah, then I kept going in this direction of like, I hate everything, and I kept getting injured. And the only thing holding me together was music, and all that fun stuff inside of music was this thing, this budding experience, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, right? It's like I wanted to be on stage, surrounded by music. I wanted to be a performer. I wanted to present my work without scores. I wanted to present my work in movement and dance and all this stuff without being scored, without requirements, without being like, yeah, you need your standing back tuck, you need you like fly away. And like, I was never good at gymnastics. I'm not gonna deny it. The only thing I was good at was floor. My bar skills were shit. Everything like that, yeah, it was really fun. So actually, to finish off 8th grade, we come to the end of 8th grade where I am now officially, I moved levels, well, I changed coaches, and this new coach, it was like immediately, I went over the vault table, I did all this new stuff, I got kips, I had kips, I got like cast handstands, I got new skills on every fucking event, like I was feeling good about myself. And this is where I shared my first Instagram post, which I think is kind of important because my whole career here started on Instagram. And my whole emo thing, I shared a gymnastics post where I was just fucking chilling, and it was like for a Skyla Drive. It was like this weird contest where like you shared, you know, your talent to a Skyla Drive, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And so I shared some gymnastics skills, and I felt really cool. I was like, yeah, I'm cool as fuck. I can do flips, right? Yeah, but gymnastics is a very toxic environment for human beings who are not of neurotypical beings, especially because it's gymnastics. And so I continued, but I continued. I went through the next year. It was actually not a bad year, or at least this little section. This was like pre my first Warped Tour. Again, music is something that I have to get into all on its own because this is a whole thing. My interests are like everywhere. This is technically a sewing channel, right? But yeah, so I did that. I went to Germany. I sprained my knees, right? I sprained my knees in gymnastics. I think it was like 2 weeks before Germany. I just remember this being right after the release of Disgusting by Beartooth, and then like right before I went to Germany for this time. This is the first time that I wasn't going to stay for an extended amount of time. I was just there for 3 weeks. But I wasn't really excited about it actually, because this was my first year of Warped Tour. I was like, yeah, Warped Tour. Yeah, so I'm trying to think, what is so significant? There's nothing significant about this year in Germany, I think, other than the fact that I just really liked moving, and I'd like always dance and do fun stuff like that. And then I came back, I came back from Germany, and I got to go to my first Warped Tour. This was the most amazing experience of my life. I'd never been to a concert. My parents were jazz musicians, so obviously I went to like jazz concerts, but that's where you sit still and you're just like, cool, nice solo. Y'all are great. And I was like, you know, I like metal. I wanted to go see Born of Osiris live. I really want to see Chelsea Grin. For All the Sleeping was the band. That was the band. Rip. Yeah, so I saw so many bands. I think it was like Attila, Born of Osiris. I think my friend dragged me to Falling in Reverse. It was like, okay, Warped Tour 2014 was stacked. It was like Falling in Reverse, Color Morale, please. Color Morale, Chelsea Grin, For All the Sleeping, The Word Alive, and I think I also saw like Ghost Town or something. It was like really weird. But I remember all these bands, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to go on stage and you know, pour my heart out, because I loved writing. I loved artistic, creative things, and I think at this point I didn't really want to be a vocalist anymore because I couldn't scream. I was like, the music that I wanted to make was super like screamy. I liked, you know, Chelsea Grin. I liked For All the Sleeping. I like metalcore. I still do. But I couldn't scream, so I was like, maybe I just learn how to play guitar. So I had a guitar. I've been playing guitar. I'm really bad at guitar. I haven't played in like 3 years, but I have my 7-string if you would like to see. I still play here all the time. I'm really bad at it. But yeah, okay, so continuing that story. I played guitar, hoping that maybe I could get up on stage and actually perform with a guitar, thinking that's the way to go, right? If I want to be in a band, that's the way to go. Died when I was like 15. My last year of gymnastics was around 15. I came out. In this year, I started my transition. Obviously, I had to fight for a while. I was like, gymnastics is so toxic. I can't do this anymore. It was very toxic. I quit, I think a year later, because I was just like, I can't. I want to finally like be true to myself. This year I also started going to more shows. I started like seeing bands. I started talking to bands. You know, I talked to Garrett Rapp from Colin Rao a lot. I talked to a lot of bands. I remember meeting Garrett from Silent Planet at this time too. That was my first Silent Planet show, which is also such an experience. But Silent Planet is like one of my favorite bands due to the fact that they have been so integral in my life since I was 15. But yeah, this is when I first started talking to bands. I started like being in the scene. The scene was really exciting for me. But for some reason, it's like I didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. I didn't feel like playing in a band was the way to go. I was like, what else am I supposed to do? Go to theater school? I actually did consider that once, but I feel like I wouldn't survive a day in theater school, man. I barely survived theater class in college of Circus school. You know, I persevered. I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep playing in a band. I got really into gent music this year. Yeah, so I got really, Structures and Reflections were my favorite bands. Reflections came later, actually. Wait. Structures was like my favorite band at this time. I was like so obsessed. It was like Divided By. Peak fucking album. I love it so much. I still love it. I have the shirt. I'm cool like that. What else? Structures of Silent Planet. Tesseract. No, Tesseract came later. No, it was Tesseract. I did get really into Tesseract. The Contortionist. There's all these different artists, and it just really bloomed and blossomed in this thing. And then this was also the summer my ticket home. Yes. I got really into Beartooth. That's a thing. But yeah, okay, so that aside, this was the summer where I discovered putting on music and dancing to it, and not putting on house music or going to a hip-hop class or doing that. This is where I discovered, literally in my living room, putting on like CDs. I only carried CDs, no aux cords for me. And I would put on these songs and these CDs and I just dance. I'd like, in my living room, I was just like, yeah, I'm really cool, like contemporary, like there was no technique. I didn't do gram, I didn't do ballet. I mean, I had ballet technique in my body, so like obviously there were sachets, there's like leaps. I don't know how to fill this void. There was this void that gymnastics had left, because I was like, I need to move somehow. I need to just like express myself in this weird way. What am I supposed to do, you know? And the gymnastics had left that void, because that was my way of just like moving and working out and just like exhausting myself. I have ADHD, again, I'm like very hyperactive. I have to like move all the time, otherwise I don't sleep or anything like that. It's just like, yeah. So yeah, continuing into that concept, my mom, I think emailed me and was like, hey, do you want to try this thing called aerials? I was like, yeah. Sure, thinking it's a dance class, you know. I was like, okay, cool, it's just gonna be like a dance class or an acro dance class or something. And then I walk in on day one of this aerials thing, and I walk in and there's like a silk hanging, there's like a lyra, there's 2 trapezes, and I'm like, fuck, what did I get myself into? And honestly, the first few times that I tried it, I really did not like it. It was painful, it sucked. I hated climbing the silks. The trapezes were terrifying, and the lyra just, I don't like lyra, I still don't. But I remember going on YouTube one night and like watching just like silks videos. I'm a verticals person, don't roast me for not liking trapeze, but like I watched silks videos. I was like, yo, this is really cool. I want to get better at this. And so I went in the next day. I was really excited. I was like, is there any way I can do more of this? And they're like, we only offer that class right now. And I was like, crap. So I looked up more studios, and immediately I was going like 3-4 times a week, and I was just training, and I was improving absolutely like crazy, and it filled the void that I needed it to fill, thinking I still wanted to play in a metal band. No, that changed. No, that didn't change yet. The reason that I actually ever thought about circus school was because of the E&C, which is, I think, every circus artist's story. It's like, yeah, I want to go to E&C, right? But like, it was in my head. We were looking up like summer camps that year for me to like, you know, do things, and I was like, yo, there's like this really cool summer camp for like E&C, and we looked at it and it was like really expensive, so I couldn't do it. But it got the idea in my head. I saw this really cool silks artist doing, you know, fabric. It was like really cool fabric. It was like contemporary, new, and I was like, that's sick. It motivated me. It made me, and I think from then on, I wanted to go to E&C because that was the only circus school that I knew. Don't roast me. I actually didn't know any of the ones that existed, and the one I go to now didn't exist yet. Great. So we continue into that journey of silks, and I started finding movement combining sort of like metal, and I mean, all these are on YouTube. Like, if you want to go back through my channel, you'll see videos from like, I hit starting in the summer of 2016, which we'll get to. I started doing these silk routines, these improv silk pieces to metalcore. And I was like, this is something that I really want to do, is like combine my favorite things into metalcore and music and silks and movement, because I love movement. I don't like playing music, but I love moving to music. And so I did that. I have danced. I started with the Color Morale. This is when Walls just came out. Yeah, I started with Color Morale. I think I did more than one of the Color Morale. I did Fallujah. That was really hard. They had no rhythm, which is fine. Polyrhythms are a thing. I just kept going down the list of these things, and every single time I go to practice or I train, I would, at the end, be like, hey, can we film an improv? And I would just improv on fabric. I was learning like all these drops. I was doing crazy stuff. I think I got 6 months in, which is like the star drop, or the drop that everyone, the coveted drop that everyone wants. You know, you're at the top of the fabric, you're here, and you do a front flip, and you do a side flip, and you catch, and you're cool. I learned that like 6 months in, and it was the sickest thing I'd ever done. I was like, I feel great. Like, I was also on Instagram at this time. I never talked about my Instagram background. The reason I started YouTube like 5-6 years ago was because of Instagram. I was emo. I was like one of those emo kids, you know, I had swoopy hair, and I was like doing that thing. My Instagram became less of like, you know, emo selfies and more like, hey, look, this cool thing I did, art. And then like a lot of silk videos, because I was like that weird metalhead silks kid. That's who I was known for on Instagram. I had like 50,000 followers at the time. A whole story of that comes at some point when I've processed it. But yeah, okay. And then we move into Warped Tour 2016 was really, really good. This was an interesting year, but I don't want to. It was a weird year. But Warped Tour 2016 was like peak. Color Morale played. I think Veil of Maya played. I remember that. Veil of Maya, Chelsea Grin was there, Whitechapel was there. You know, all of my favorite bands. And I think I didn't get to see Silent Planet, but Silent Planet were playing. Everything is Sound came out. This is really important because I literally hyperfixated on the album for like 2 weeks. I blamed the song Nervosa. Thank you so much for making that song. So I had this thing, I think starting, I wanted to make pieces, movement pieces to these songs on Everything is Sound, and I think I still have like 2 or 3 that I'm missing, but I made a aerial fabric piece on all of them, or as many as I possibly could, until I stopped doing fabric. So 2017 was my junior year of high school. Like, basically I just have to like get good grades, do the thing where you're actually a high schooler. At this point, my dream of being a metal guitarist was over. I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna get good enough to do any of that, because I like mathcore like Jen. It's like, I'm not gonna get good enough to just like duke out technique in Jen. I can do chords. I start dedicating my fucking life to Circus. Like, every waking moment was conditioning, it was training, it was tumbling, it was open gyms, all this. It was just, I kept going, I kept training, I kept just doing it and duking it out because it made me happy. Circus was the first thing in so long that made me so alive. It's like the closest thing you can get to flying. And at this point, I'm still an aerialist. I'm purely an aerialist, which is really interesting. But that's all I really knew, because that's all I sort of had access to at the time. It was like aerials and acro, and like I do both. And like, I'm not about to learn how to juggle at this point, because whole story, I don't like juggling. Great. So yeah, we go into this fun experience there. I think in March of 2017 was when I first touched the aerial rope. This was an instant love apparatus. Like, I tried lyre, I wanted to get better at trapeze, but like the minute I touched aerial rope and I started scouring, like, you know, Instagram and stuff, videos, I was like, I love this. I love this thing, this painful thing. I remember the first 3 days I was doing rope. It was like, I left every single night after training. It was like my hands were ripped up, my back was bleeding, and like I had sores all over my body. It was so painful, but I just kept fighting through it because it was the most fun I had ever had. I think aerial rope is very different than fabric. A lot of people think they're the same thing, but rope is very dynamic, it's very swingy. That's what I really like about movement. So I dedicate all the open gym time, all the time I can, to rope, but again, my access is very limited. We have a coach, like we have people who did rope, and like they're great and they taught me everything that I knew, but you know, at some point I as a person started to improve past that point, which is where, you know, my own self-driven motivation and training comes in, because I had to improve, because otherwise I got bored. You know, you get stagnant and then you get really bored and you're like, I don't want to keep doing this, I need something new. And that's usually where, you know, anything that I learn nowadays comes from. Continuing on, my love for metalcore has just become sort of like dissipated a little bit. It was kind of sad actually to watch it go, because it was really fun. I still listen to it, all the time, but Circus was like my new thing. I was doing Circus all the time. I was training, like I went into the advanced class now. It was like, we did like 2-3 hours twice a week, and then I'd also do that on top of all my other fabric training, all my other rope training, all my open gyms. I'd go to every open gym, I'd train. I was training like 15-16 hours a week now. So this was like going back to my roots of just like training, and it made me feel so good. It gave me something to do, and it's like, I think without it I would totally just not be existing right now. Circus in a way did save me as a human being, along with music, but like Circus was the thing that really brought me back to life after some really shitty experiences the year before and the year before that. It gave me a new life, it gave me a purpose to exist. And so now we're in that year where I must audition for circus schools. I only knew of ENC. I was like, okay, we're gonna get into ENC, right? That's it, I have to get into ENC. And obviously, so we drive to New York, my mom, we're on tour. I go on tour with my mom. We drive from New York to Canada to go to the pre-auditions, because it was like a good way to connect with people. It's a good way to be with people. You know, there's a reality shock when you go to Canada and you realize that everyone's 10 times better than you. Like, I had all the skills, I had acro skills, I was strong enough, you know, all that fun stuff, but like there's some stuff that you just can't get in a small town recreational training. So, you know, I was sort of met with this, I'm not good enough, you know. It's like, I have to keep training and I have to learn how to move, and my movement was very rigid, my theater skills were rusty, my dance was not dance, it was just gymnastics movement at this point. So obviously I was told that I wasn't, you know, able to, well, I was able to audition, but I wasn't ready. But then there was the talk of this new school, and I was like, great, cool. That's the one I go to now. I'm really happy that I chose this school. Actually, don't know if I would have survived a week at ENC had I gone in when I went to audition. That's a different video. That's the next video once I graduate. So we're there. Where do you? I get. Yes, I need to talk about steer wheel. Right, that's the thing I'm majoring in. So, a rope at one point stopped serving me, and I wasn't improving. I was like, you know, stagnant. I wasn't ready yet for pirouettes. I wasn't strong enough, so I had to get stronger. But I needed to do something else, so I did two things. I, one, joined the high school gymnastics team. Two, started steer wheel. Well, let's get into high school gymnastics first. So, high school gymnastics team. I'm fully transitioned now, first off. So, like, I'm a dude. I'm like a buff dude. Like, I was really built at that time. But it was also like, it was a time. So I go in and I'm just like, dude, I want to do this so bad. I miss it. I did miss it. I miss gymnastics, because it's a really fun sport when you have the right team. I love the environments, you know, when the garage doors are open in your gym and you're just training. It's a really, really great environment. It's just like something that you don't access when you have bad coaching, or when you're me and you have to transition medically, and obviously that's weird when you're on a girls gymnastics team. But yeah, so we do that. I move on. I train with them. I actually feel really at home in this place. Like, I really liked this team. I really enjoyed being there and being with it. But again, it was stuff that I'd already done. And then I sprained my knee a second time. And about that time, I was like, oh great, now we're gonna stay sagging again. So I was like, what if I picked up steer wheel? You know, there's a steer wheel in the gym, no one's touched it. What if I was the first? You know, what if I did this? And love at first sight. Oh my God, it was just like, I touched it, I spun once, and I was like, I wanna never stop. I sucked at it. I have a video, literally like overlaying this video. That's what I could do for like a month, was just 1, 2. I wasn't fast enough, it was scary. It was like, you go back, you go forth. And I was like, I don't know how to control it, but I wanted to get better at it so badly. So at this point, so I auditioned for the school I'm in now. I made it in, which is really nice. Thanks y'all. It's been a journey. I made it into the school, and after I made it into the school, it was like, well, now I really have to get better. I convinced my mom to buy me one of the cheap steer wheels. It was like $500. It was a lot of money. Like, steer wheels are expensive. But I still have the steer wheel today. I still use the steer wheel literally almost like all the time. It is my outdoor wheel, right? Like, these things are beautiful. So first off, buy that steer wheel. Do it. Oh my God, fuck, do it. It's so much fun. And so I went and I started training outside on tennis courts. I just kept teaching myself steer wheel. No one in Indiana did steer wheel. And I quickly did improve. I learned how to do waltzes, and you know, I did tricks and waltzes, one-legged waltzes. I did some front handspring stuff. I just didn't fathom, you know, going on my hands. That was the one thing that I was like, don't know. Ooh, that's terrifying. Oh goodness. This is the thing that happens. But that also comes in later, because obviously I have my coin spins now. Cartwheels are rough, but I have them. You know, it's like, that was the whole thing. It's because my technique was wrong. I taught myself totally wrong technique. I was here, you're supposed to be like here. I was like spinning in here. I was like, yeah, we're gonna spin inside here. It's like, you know, you wanna be here. You know, it's like, yeah, you wanna be holding out and down. But I didn't care, because this brought me so much joy. I was making pieces, I was making work. Steer wheel gave me so much life. When I say circus saved me, I really do mean steer wheel. Like, aerials was a thing that I liked to do, but it was steer wheel that eventually pulled me into this world of circus. So we're really at the end of my journey up to circus school. At this point, I think I started working pirouettes, rope pirouettes, which are, I'll insert a video, just things where you lift your hips up, you twist, you grab the rope. I started working on these, and my technique was starting to improve, and at this point, I just considered myself a circus artist. I do want to talk about the last Warped Tour, just because, rip. Warped Tour 2018, one of my absolute favorite, well, it was really fun, because I tried to make the most out of it, because it was the last one, right? So I saw every band I possibly could. I was like, I don't even get Knocked Loose played, and I did like a backflip. Silverstein played. I know Beartooth played. Well, no, they didn't play our date. I really like Beartooth right now, so I'm going through a little bit of a thing. Absolutely sick. It was amazing. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the Warped Tour. I had so much fun. And I have a picture of me and Derek from Mayday Parade, which obviously at that point I stopped listening to Mayday Parade, but like, well, I still listen to them, but like I stopped following them really. It was just a band that I like to listen to, but I was like, yeah, this is like really reminiscent of who I was. I saw all the big bands, you know, I was like, oh God, I miss it. I do. Bring back Warped Tour 2022, hopefully. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna stop talking about Warped Tour now. And the last 3 days of circus school were all just spent training doing pirouettes, doing all this stuff, doing crazy stuff, training serial wheel outside. Oh wait, no, I found a space inside to train. Also, if you plan on ever training inside, don't spin your wheel outside because it ruins the PVC of the wheel. So like, I learned that the hard way, but don't do it. It'll preserve your wheel's life. Yeah, now we're at the point where circus school begins. I think I quit my part-time job at Joann's, quit there, I packed up all my belongings, and I moved to Philadelphia. I was dropped off at an Airbnb before I could move into my house. And thus begins the long-winded journey of the last 3 years. I didn't get into any specifics in this video because I'm currently also not really wanting to open that can of worms. That is something I'm hoping to open later. Not this video though, that's already very long. So, yeah, I think 2-3 months you'll be seeing the documentary video of, 3 years of circus school. So you'll see that video pop up. Yeah, it'll have to be made after I graduate, which is gonna be in June. Because obviously I still have to do thesis, I still have to do my end of year show, I have to create things and make work. I'll be posting all the time in between them though, right? Like I have sewing things, my thesis costume part 2 is coming once I figure out how to make pants and a bodysuit. I'm really bad at stretchy things. Yeah, maybe if you are curious about my history of my entire music taste, it's a big one. Let me know because I'd love to make it. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time and used to talk about, but I don't talk about much anymore because no one wants to talk with me about metalcore because my metalcore interests are very niche. Okay, well, I will peace out for this video and see y'all later. Subscribe if you want elven sewing content, metalcore content, and the circus, because I'm a weird human being who does not have one single interest. I must always combine all my interests.